Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 3573. Today's date is September 4, 2025. It's been almost like a night at 9:25 p.m. Alright, we just directly jump into the question. Let's go. Alright, yeah. Question is, how can I provide great service to different type of customers in India? Okay, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? Okay, first of all, this question is associated with the business, startup, marketing, actually kind of like a business, yeah. Why am I asking this question to myself is because of that ki I want to know. I want to know how this business works and things like that. Because in the future, I wanted to establish a business and startup, and I don't really know how do I supposed to do that. Completely unaware of, because I haven't really graduated. I haven't really done any MBA, nothing really at all. So asking these questions to myself, so I would be a little bit aware of that. What would I supposed to be do when this situation should supposed to be happen? So what would I do at that time? Okay, so I need to know that. All right. Regarding about this question is mostly focused on customer services. How do I supposed to provide the customer services? First of all, let's just explain what is actually customer services. Customer services means like that ki some people is kind of like a bought some sort of product or service from you, and obviously there is some certain issues happen, sometime not, sometime happen. Okay, let's just say you buy the phone, and after a couple of months the camera of the phone is not working properly. Obviously you will gonna call the customer service, right? Same thing happened like any product or kind of like a somebody, let's just say service. Let's just say kind of like a some that key you actually kind of like a bought a course, app development course from someone. Okay, yeah. Couple of months ago the site is not working properly, so you need a kind of like a customer phone number, contact number, right? Basically customer service is only meant when the customer are feel something problem while using your service or while using your product. Okay, so they have some sort of issues and things like that, and they wanted to solve that issues. So that's why customer service is really essential. Okay, customer service is very essential for every possible scenario. Like basically if you are doing scam, then probably okay, yeah. But if you wanted to legit doing a business, okay, obviously customer service is really essential. Now regarding about customer service, do you understand what is really customer service? Okay, yeah. So if I'm gonna say how do I supposed to provide a customer service, okay, yeah, if I'm kind of like a running my business and things like that, so how would I supposed to be kind of like a somebody provide the customer service? Okay, yeah. What is exactly my business? My business is that ki I'm kind of like a developing application. Okay, yeah. In this particular application, people will gonna kind of like a record the artifact. Okay, what is exactly artifact? I already mentioned regarding about everything, but still, I wanted to clarify this thing because the question is might be kind of associated with that thing. Okay, so let me explain what is actually artifact. Artifact means like that ki a kind of like a simply the diary. People wrote the diary every single day. This is what exactly is it, but instead of writing, kind of like a recording. Means like that people would kind of like a simply writing, they are kind of like a recording in audio format. Like right now you are kind of like a listening right now, same as it is. People will gonna talk about what is actually happening in their life and things and that. Now what is actually my application do something different is that ki my application is kind of like a simply provide a privacy, because obviously when you wrote the diary you need to be kind of like a simply make sure that ki no one will gonna read your diary. Okay, yeah, because it's your diary. So same thing I wanted to do with the artifact, that ki people will gonna record the artifact, but their name shouldn't supposed to be include, or like sometimes people will gonna kind of like a record the artifact when they kind of like a recording their stuff and stuff at the spur of the moment, they might gonna mention their name and things like that. So my kind of like assembly is this thing, that what would I do is that ki in their profile their name shouldn't supposed to be included, nothing really at all. In the recording Even if they are kind of like a mention some sort of name and things like that, in we have kind of like a simply inbuilt AI system that kind of like a figure it out what is actually noun. Noun means like that name, any kind of like a things. It will kind of like add beeps over there. Okay, yeah. So the people would kind of like a simply will not gonna listen the details. Okay, so let me explain what exactly is this thing. It's a my application is kind of like simply YouTube. Okay, yeah. Like YouTube, like you understand, like basically people would kind of like record the video, upload the video on YouTube platform, and other people will gonna watch that video. Same thing happened in my application too. Means like that in my application, people will gonna record the artifact, they will gonna publish that artifact in my platform. Okay, and other people will gonna listen. YouTube is a video based platform, my application is a audio based platform, right? So people will gonna listen the artifact. All right, they get it. Now there is a kind of like this is my kind of like a simply application. Now I need a customer service. Okay, it is really essential for customer service because I wanted to make them kind of like somebody really legit person. Means like that. Legit means what? Let's just imagine. Okay, the people who are kind of like somebody recording artifact for almost like a last 2 years. Okay, yeah. And because of some sort of reason, things might be something happened, and kind of like their profile is not working or something like that. So how would I supposed to be kind of like somebody figure it out and things like that? Okay. Right now I am not really sure what will gonna problem that I will gonna face. Okay, yeah. But I will definitely gonna face this problem because let me tell you one thing. I am recording artifact. Okay, yeah. So I am doing this thing from since decade and kind of like assembly. I am complete control of everything. Like basically whatever I speak, whatever I say, and basically after I record everything, it kind of like a save in my kind of like assembly computer. Okay, it's not kind of like upload on cloud and things like that. No one is actually listening. By the way, I actually upload this thing on YouTube platform, but still, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. What kind of like the problem that I will gonna face in the customer services? First of all, is that privacy concern. Okay, yeah. As I mentioned that key, my application will gonna provide the privacy. Means like that key people when they record their kind of like artifact and things like that at the spur of the moment, they mention their name and things like that. So my application has kind of like a AI built in which kind of like eliminate those noun and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now this AI will not kind of like a something that key work that much efficiently because AI will gonna make mistakes. Okay, yeah. So I will gonna make sure that key this is not gonna happen. So probably what I do is that key I also like when I do marketing with my application, I would say that key do not mention your name at least like at the beginning. Okay, like at least make sure private yourself first. Okay, yeah. At the spur of the moment you might gonna mention. So for that thing, I will kind of like a my AI will kind of like simply control all those things or kind of like figure it out everything. Okay, but at the beginning this mistake shouldn't supposed to be happen. So I kind of like while marketing might be kind of like tagline would be kind of like a make it kind of like a private or privacy is in your hand or things like that. Why I'm kind of like putting so much emphasis on privacy? It is very important. Okay, my application would not be kind of like a simply work if I'm not providing the privacy. Privacy is very essential. Why is essential? Okay, yeah. Like as I mentioned, my application means like that people will gonna record their thoughts and things like that. Means what is actually happening in their day and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Let's just imagine there is a girl who is kind of like a recording artifact and she is kind of like somebody mention that she fall in love with someone guy and stuff like that. At the spur of the moment, she mentioned her name and at the kind of like only mention that particular boy name too. Okay, yeah. Now basically what is actually happened that the artifact, like basically she actually kind of like published that artifact, and the people who kind of like listen to the artifact, they might kind of like something maybe some like let's just say kind of like in part of India. Let's just say she's the girl is actually from the Chandigarh, and the people there is a guy like basically who is actually from the Gujarat. He's kind of like listen her artifact. Okay, yeah. Now basically what is actually happened that this guy is kind of like somebody listening her artifact for almost like a year. Okay, and she's kind like he is kind of like somebody really fallen for her voice and things like that. Because let me tell you one thing now. Okay, because most of the time our interaction with kind of like somebody girl to boy is kind of like a visual interaction. Okay, yeah. so we might not understand that much well. But when there's an audio interaction happen, means like that ki the way that you connect with me is a very deeply. Okay, yeah. Like basically is this thing na ki if you actually see my photo, I actually see your photo, the interaction between us is kind of like a something very limited. But when there is an audio format happen na, it's kind of like a something very built-in interaction. Even if we don't know, even if we don't really see each other, but interaction between us is kind of like a so much. Means like that people who kind of like a somebody listening other people's artifact, that particular person is kind of like a somebody secretly admire or things like that. I don't know what exactly is this, but that particular person, the person who's actually from the Gujarat, is kind of like a liking that girl. Okay, yeah. Now what exactly happened? Before she didn't really mention anything regarding about that, but in this artifact she mentioned regarding about she is from Chandigarh, she is kind of like a something like this boy is from this school and that and that. Now what exactly happened? Because of this boy actually known everything regarding about her, so that guy is kind of like a finding her in other social media platform like Instagram or Facebook, or he will also kind of like a find out that ki which college is he from, now basically whose boy, kind of like a find a particular link, and that particular guy will gonna find out because she actually mentioned her name and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now that particular person found that particular girl on Instagram platform. Okay, yeah. Now what would I supposed to do? That particular person will gonna kind of like a send any kind of like a message to her and things like that. He will kind of like a mention that he, I am this guy, I'm kind of like a somebody listening you from kind of like a far like 6, 5, 7 months, your voice is really good, you are really good things and that and that. Okay, yeah. And this is very fucked up thing. Right now, the situation is kind of like something very mellow. Okay, like basically she just mentioned her name and things like that. Let's just imagine that there is a kind of like some girl who kind of like explain that she actually kiss a boy at first time. Okay, and kind of like mention her artifact, everything. Now the guy who actually known this thing, that particular guy will kind of like harass her. Like basically on the Instagram, she'll gonna say, oh, you kiss this boy and things and that, and I know this thing. Then this is really fucked up situation happen. She might gonna feel very terrible and everything. Yeah, it's a really fucked up thing happened. So privacy is very, 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 very essential. Means like that people will know the story, but they will not gonna know who is that person and where is this happen and things and that and that. One thing. Another thing is that why am I kind of like simply telling this thing first is like why is this thing like basically am I like basically is this thing na ki if the people is actually recording the artifact, let them record na. Like why are you kind of like simply other people will gonna listen and things like that? That is a really good question. Yeah, let me tell you one thing. Have you ever kind of like simply watch any movies? Obviously everyone gonna watch movies. The character is actually kind of like a something act. It's something that like, let me tell you one thing now. Okay, yeah, we are living in this world where kind of like only most of the people we know each other, we see each other and things like that. But one of the biggest problem is that we don't know other each other. Like our thoughts are kind of like so much different than our personality and things like that. Okay, yeah. Artifact is actually showing that personality through audio format, through this kind of like artifact and things like that. Okay, so it kind of like somewhat something that we connect. Like I don't know how do I supposed to explain. Okay, yeah. Like an artifact, like basically if you are kind of like listening this artifact till now, that means you are connecting with me. So this is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing when the other people will gonna record the artifact and other people will kind of like listen them artifact, their artifact, then kind of like those people will gonna connect. And they just wants to know and things like that. It's kind of okay, let me explain. Okay, you might gonna experience this thing. Okay, yeah. Let's just say that you went to the restaurant and you are kind of like somebody that you want to eat pizza. Okay, yeah. Now at beside there is a kind of like a couple who is fighting regarding about stuff like that. Okay, now you are kind of like somebody alone, you are eating pizza and things like that, but you are so curious about what is actually they are fighting about and things and that. This is what it is. Like basically is this thing na ki when there is a chaos happen or when there is a kind of like a things happen, we just wants to know. Okay, yeah, what is actually things and that. Same thing happened. Like let's just say that I don't know, I'm belong to the India. So let me explain. When kind of like somebody at my mother and kind of like a somebody bunch of kind of like a somebody mother at kind of like basically this thing like at the neighborhood, like the group of mothers actually came and they are actually talking about this and that and that and that and that. Okay, yeah, like this topic is kind of like something completely different. They completely different, completely just like doesn't like, yeah, like basically my mother is kind of like a listening that ki her kind of like in-laws kind of like doing this and doing that, and she was kind of, this is a lot of things. Okay, yeah, my mother is not really kind of like like this topic is kind of like something completely irrelevant, but still my mother would gonna listen, and not only listen, she would also kind of like give the reply and things like that. Not only like basically my mother does, everyone does it. We are kind of like somebody always have kind of like interest regarding about other people's life. Okay, yeah, and this is what it's kind of like a builder's curiosity and things like that. Now I have to ask this question: is it right? Like, is it right? Like basically is this thing na ki, like basically snooping in someone's life, is it right or wrong? Well, let me clarify. Okay, when you record the artifact now, okay, I don't know, you might gonna like basically if you experience this thing, then you understand this thing. If you just never really done that thing, then you might not know the thing. When you record the artifact na, you connect with yourself. Like basically the way, like basically I'm recording artifact and I'm kind of like connecting with myself. There is no script, there is nothing really at all. I'm kind of like somebody saying the stuff that is kind of like inside of my head and kind of like somebody blur that out and kind of like record everything. Okay, yeah. So this is kind of like somebody that key. When I record this thing, I kind of like express my thoughts and things like that. And sometimes those thoughts are really positive, really kind of like somebody looking at the way kind of like somebody really right or kind of like somebody or somebody very different. I don't know how do I supposed to explain. Okay, yeah. And other people might gonna get little bit of influence. Let's just explain. Okay, let me kind of like somebody clarify. Okay, yeah. Let's just say that there is a guy who is kind of like a recording artifact regarding about the kind of like somebody that stock market. Like basically he was kind of like talking about that he was kind of like doing the stock market for last 2-3 years, and what kind of like he was kind of like mentioned every experience regarding about what exactly happened, how much losses he bear, how much he understand and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. Now basically is this thing, he record that particular everything experience in the artifact. The people would kind of like listen those artifacts, they would understand his experience, and they would kind of like simply realize that what is actually stock market. It's kind of like a things. And sometimes, I don't know, but sometimes we would kind of like get little bit of information or things like that. Or maybe it's just like that if I am kind of like associated with that subject, like I also kind of like somebody I am also kind of like somebody trading, I also do the stock market and things like that. So I also kind of like wanted to experience these things, or I wanted to kind of like share my thought process and things like that. So I also record my thought process regarding about this, what is actually stuff like that. So what is actually happened now? We are humans and we are meant to be grow, and mostly we actually grow because of knowledge, because of surrounding, and artifact is actually giving that surrounding. It's kind of like somebody, everyone is actually talking about something is actually happening in their life. Other people are kind of like listening and this and that, and they are kind of like somebody understand the reality of the life. Now what's the reality of the life? Reality of the life means like that the life is real. Okay, yeah. Okay, what is actually life is real? Okay, let's just say that there is a girl. She is actually, her father is rich. Yeah, her family is really rich. She is actually living very big house and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now she upload a photo on Instagram regarding about how having her luxury life and things like that. Okay, yeah. Obviously she has a very luxury life and things like that. But inside she is actually very crippling because of that. Because of her father is kind of like so much kind of like somebody so much evolved, so much kind of like things and that, and she was always have kind of like a hesitation that my father is really great person, am I that great person or not? Am I be kind of like somebody, like they always have kind of like a burden to kind of like somebody, how do I be kind of like somebody great like my father or things like that? Or am I be kind of like a credible person to kind of like called as a son or daughter of my father or things like that? So they might have always like a basically problem in their life. Like basically as a rich person, they also have kind of like a problem in their life too. Okay, and this is what it is. And she was kind of like a mention regarding about things. She was kind of like a mention that what exactly happened in her life, things and that. Like from visual point of perspective, everything looked really good, but emotionally she went very terrible situation. Okay, yeah. And this is what kind of like some artifact will gonna help her. Like basically she was kind of like some mention, she was kind of like a tell that what is actually happening in her life and things and that and that and that. Okay. So this is what reality means. Like that in Instagram platform, you actually seen the photo, her kind of like a very luxury lifestyle and things like that. We kind of like things that she doesn't really have any problems or things like that. But artifact is kind of like a telling the reality. She was kind of like a telling the reality. What is exactly this thing? Being rich means not a kind of like a away from the problem. You also have a getting the problem too. Okay, yeah. So problem is not gonna face by the only kind of like only poor people. Rich people will also gonna face the problem too. Okay, yeah. Basically everyone knows that, but kind of like simply the way that she was kind of like elaborate what is actually happening in her life and things and that, and other people will gonna resonate with that thing too. Now, what exactly is this thing? Okay, this is kind of like a something that we learn, we evolve from each other. Okay, yeah. People might gonna listen their artifact and kind of like a something they want the things and they wanted to kind of like a share the same thoughts and things like that and something like that. Obviously, other people like some people are kind of like utilizing this platform for very wrong purposes, hate speeches, kind of like something very wrong, kind of like a things and that. Obviously, we are human and everyone kind of like a thinks very differently, and some of the thought processes are really not so right and things like that. Okay, yeah. So for that particular purpose, I have kind of like a judgmental system. Okay, what is that? Judgmental system. Judgmental system means like that every artifact is actually judged by the star-based system. Means like that let's just say there is a guy who's kind of like a talking about the stock market and things like that. I also resonate with that topic and things like that. So I mentioned this thing 5 out of 5 star. Okay, yeah. So when the 5 out of 5 star get, that artifact will gonna recommend to the more and more people and things like that. Okay, yeah. Same thing happened with the girl. She's kind of like mentioning her life and things like that her life is very rich and things like that, but emotionally she is kind of like somebody fucked up and things like that. The way that she's kind of like telling the truth and everything, and the people who kind of like listening, they are really connecting, so they are kind of like putting the 5 star or 4 star or whatever it is. Okay, now there is a guy who's kind of like talking about kind of like somebody, he fucked this girl, he fucked that girl and things and that and that. Obviously it sounds so cool in every possible scenario, but it felt rad, it felt something really wrong. We have kind of like a thing inside of us that this is wrong. Okay, yeah. And when we feel wrong, like basically when we feel that this person is kind of like very wrong, we have power to kind of like simply say that give them kind of like a 1 star or no star, or kind of like somebody give them minus star or whatever. Okay, yeah. So if we do that, it kind of like somebody that artifact will kind of like somebody less recommend to the more and more people. Okay, yeah. So this is how kind of like every artifact will gonna judge. So in the end, we have kind of like somebody get such a artifact which is kind of like a really good at the top and really bad at the bottom. Might be my judgmental system would be kind of like somebody that 0 1 2 and like basically -2 -1 0 1 2. Okay, so basically if the artifact is kind of like a really good, get 2. If the artifact is really bad, go to the -2 or -1 or whatever it is. So when we have this particular judgmental system, which kind of like is really good regarding about that how do we supposed to categorize all the kind of like assembly artifacts. So when this thing happened now, only good people who kind of like sharing thought with the honesty and things and the real fact and things like that, those artifacts will gonna recommend to the more and more people. That means other people who actually listening this thing, they are kind of like influenced by this thing, and they are also kind of like talking about this thing. Okay, talking about really good and good stuff. When the people actually talking about really bad stuff, it will kind of like recommend to the less and less people. When it gonna recommend to the less and less people, it will gonna kind of like a non-existence. I mean, those people will kind of like those artifacts will kind of like somebody will not gonna recommend, will not gonna kind of like other people will not gonna influence by this thing or not. So this is the judgmental that we have. This is the kind of like somebody judge the things that we have. Okay, yeah. But this is what it is. Okay, yeah. This is what kind of like something the application do I have and things like that. Okay, obviously I'm kind of like somebody developing right now. It's not really done yet. There's a lot of things is actually happening right now. I'm kind of like learning how to do the app development and things like that. I'm really not good at that, but I'm trying to learning. Okay, I will definitely gonna make this app. Okay, yeah. Now this is my application. Now basically, if I'm kind of like understand what would be the customer service, like basically what kind of like somebody customer will get a problem while they are using my platform or while they are using my services, what kind of like a problem they will gonna face. Okay, first of all is that regarding about ID. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing. At the moment now, I think that na ki customer service for my application, I am not really aware, or I'm not really understand, or I'm not really knew what will gonna problem that I will gonna face. Obviously, I make the system as good as possible as I can, but probably system will gonna fall at some time somewhere. Okay, yeah. And in that particular process, I don't want that key people feel kind of like something in chaos or things like that. So I don't know what kind of like some problem I will gonna face, but right now what I think it is that key I don't know at the moment. Yeah, probably because it's just like that na ki I like this is the problem that I will gonna face in the future. Okay, yeah. And this problem is only occurred when I build the app. Okay, yeah. And after I build the app, after I build the community, after the people who kind of like a recording artifact, after the people who kind of like listening and things like that, when I see the problem, then I try to fix that problem. Okay, yeah. At the moment, like basically like the basic problem that I will gonna solve, like basically regarding about the ID, regarding about privacy, regarding about all those things, these are kind of like a something will gonna solve. Okay, another thing is that people who kind of like a record the artifact, those people might be kind of like a some Gen Zs or kind of like a millennial. Okay, yeah. I don't really think that 50-year-old guy kind of like a recording artifact, but still basically is this thing na ki we have to kind of like shift at the customer services, means like that ki kind of like a somebody that ki email through, kind of like a WhatsApp through, things like that, because Gen Z people are kind of like associated with this thing, and the most of the problem is actually solved by this process. Okay, yeah. The people who are kind of like a somebody aged or things like that, the customer services for those people who are kind of like a very different way, means like that ki you have to communicate and call and kind of like some things and that. Okay, yeah. But I will have both the things, like basically the people who kind of like only solve their problem through WhatsApp, through social media, through internet, through email and things like that. Everything will gonna kind of like a solve problem. They will gonna solve. I also kind of like a try to figure it out that key their problem is kind of like a solve as quickly as possible as it can. Okay, yeah. There is also one of the biggest problem. Okay, yeah. The biggest problem, no, it kind of like a things that I don't know. Okay, yeah. Okay, it's like I don't okay, yeah. What is actually this thing? Okay, yeah. I think this might be a kind of like a some problem, but I don't know yet. Okay, yeah. What is that? Okay, yeah. Let me explain. Okay, yeah. In YouTube platform, okay, yeah. When I upload video on YouTube platform, okay, yeah, that video belong to what? Belong to who? Belong to me or belong to YouTube? It belong to me, rented by YouTube. Okay, yeah. What do you mean by rented by YouTube? Rented by YouTube means what that na? Ki, let's just say that ki Mr. Beast make a video. Okay, yeah. And he upload that video on YouTube platform. Alright, yeah. So that video, who is kind of like a authorized person, who is kind of like a somebody that key owner of that particular video? Obviously Mr. Beast. Okay, yeah. YouTube is actually rent that particular video to kind of like a show in their platform. Okay, so this is it. Okay, yeah. Now, if the people who are actually recording the artifact, so that artifact belong to who? Is it belong to artifact, or is it belong to me, or is it belong to them? I will make sure that this artifact is actually belong to them. Okay, means like that ki people who kind of like me record their artifact and things like that, this artifact is a property. Okay, yeah. My artifact, like this is my application, is a kind of like a platform. It's kind of like a renting that property, okay, to circulate the people and things like that. But this property belong to you, belong to this user. Okay, yeah. And this user belong to the who is that particular email ID and things and that. Yeah. So this is what it is. Okay, yeah. So why I'm actually saying this thing? Why actually is this thing? Because it is really essential to build the trust. Okay, people might not gonna record the artifact until and unless they know that this platform is really legit or not. Okay, yeah. Because let me tell you one thing, when the people who kind of like sharing their thoughts and things, very internal things, like we just say they are kind of like expressing what is actually happening in their head and things like that, it's a so much very very, not only the confidential thing but as also very, it like basically just say that ki there is a girl who's kind of like a say that ki she kind of like somebody made out with a multiple guys and things like that. Obviously for me or for like basically this is really not that much secretive thing. It's a very kind of like a common and things like that, but for her it's a very secretive things like that. And when she says that information in my platform or things like that, so it is my responsibility to make her private, make her privacy. And as also is this thing, this whatever she's actually mentioned, this recording is belongs to her. Okay, yeah, my platform means my application are kind of like a using her recording as a property, as a rent. Okay, yeah. And basically she already control me. This means like that na ki she can do kind of like a somebody make it private or make it kind of like a public as she want. Okay, kind of like a somebody YouTube does. Okay, means like that in YouTube platform you could kind of like a private or things like that. Okay, yeah. Now another thing. Okay, yeah. There is a couple of things that I thought that I'm gonna do and things like that, but still, as I mentioned, every artifact is actually judged by the star-based system. Okay, regarding about minus, plus, and things like that, I don't know maybe, but the star-based system we're gonna judge. Okay, yeah. Does my application like does artifact the people would gonna comment? I think that comment I should supposed to be kind of like a let the comment go, but there is also problem too, because if the people actually if the people are actually commenting the other artifacts, then probably what is actually happened that ki the people who kind of like recording the artifact, they are always kind of like actually thinking that ki what does that other people kind of like thinks, and that because they also kind of like actually typing, like they also kind of like putting the comments. Let's just say that ki like right now you are kind of like a recording my artifact. Okay, and there is another person who kind of like say that ki dude, you are kind of like a saying yeah multiple times, or you are kind of like a saying that okay multiple times. Okay, yeah. So when I record the artifact next time, I will literally hesitate to say okay, or maybe I'm kind of like a things and that. Okay, so this might be kind of like something happen. Okay, yeah. So like basically like just I say I'm okay, I say okay and yeah multiple times. Okay, yeah. Fuck, I again say it. So basically is this thing na ki while recording the artifact you are kind of like in the another zone, but while listening the artifact you are kind of like focusing on every words and things like that. So people will gonna type the comment and things, and that might be other people kind of like a talk like a comment, really harsh comment. Okay, yeah, it might gonna affect other people too, like people who actually record and things like that. So I'm kind of like a somebody that keep, should I supposed to use this comment thing or not? Okay, but like basically if I not really do the comment, then engagement will not gonna happen. Okay, basically is this thing that if I wanted to build the community and things like that, people should supposed to be engaged and things like that. So but still I don't know at the moment how should I supposed to do this comment and things like that. Okay, lot of problems I'm gonna face. Okay, yeah. But regarding about the customer services, at the moment I'm not really sure what is the gonna problem I will gonna face. But whatever the problem I will gonna face, I'm gonna make sure that that problem should supposed to solve as quickly as possible as I can. Okay, and I'm making sure the every kind of like a problem, I don't know, but I'm making sure that problem should supposed to solve the whatever the problem that I will gonna face regarding about the lost of kind of like assembly the ID, or kind of like a forget the password or things or that or something like that. So regarding about that kind of like a problem, I will gonna solve that thing. It's not a big thing, but I don't know. All right, so this is it. I should supposed to end here, and thank you.